I'm going to go over the response to the community question I posted the other day about a GE microwave blowing a circuit breaker. Let's go over the complaint. Customer calls and says as soon as they press the start, the microwave blows a circuit breaker. You arrive and take the microwave down. You open it up for testing, and after proving that the circuit is still stripping, you realize that the battery on your meter is dead. What can we do to test where the short is coming from? So basically, I wanted you to say, well, what can I do? My meter's not working. What would I test? How would I test it? And how would I try to narrow down where the short circuit is within the machine? And I put down 3 parts which I was trying to get answers from. List the 2 most common parts that would cause a short. How to check without a meter which way to narrow down the problem. And what problem would occur to the control board, being specific as to what would fail if you had this short. So in the microwave we have a 110 volt section, we have a 4000 volt section, and we have a low voltage section, which is what's on the board here. Let's go ahead and take a look at the high voltage section, which I sorted out. So this part right down here, this section right here, is considered the high voltage of the microwave. And it is very common for there to be a short circuit in the high voltage side because it carries so much voltage and amperage. But let's take a look at this high voltage section right here. There's 4 parts that make up microwaves. You have the transformer, which is here. Here's your transformer. You have a capacitor here. You have a diode, which they call it a rectifier. A diode is a rectifier. And you have a magnetron. So if any of these parts fail, they could cause a short circuit, including the circuit breaker to blow in the customer's house because it's such high voltage. But usually if something like the diode or the magnetron was to short out, they don't necessarily blow a circuit breaker. I mean, they can. Any part can blow a breaker. But what do I see most often, or what happens most often, is either the transformer or the capacitor. And in about 30 or 40 years of fixing appliances, I've only had a handful of transformers bad in all the years I've serviced a microwave. They just don't fail that often. But a capacitor, when it shorts out, it definitely creates a high amperage draw in that transformer and blows a circuit breaker or blows a fuse in a microwave. If a diode rectifier shorts out, usually when it shorts out, it makes a loud grinding noise, but typically does not cause a short circuit or a fuse to blow. You'll just hear when the microwave comes on, if you listen closely, you can hear the transformer humming, and then a real deep loud and that's usually created because the diode itself is shorted. A magnetron can do that too with the same sound, but again, rectifiers are the ones that fail most often. So one of the 2 things that I was looking for was the capacitor. So if the capacitor was bad, it could blow a circuit breaker. Okay, so let's take a look at this diagram here. So what I did is I took out just the circuit for microwaves. And if I highlight it on the right hand side for you, line 1 comes in, comes down through the noise filter, goes through a bunch of safety devices, door switches, and comes down here to feed the transformer. Now when it comes out the other side, it goes through a relay on the board, which is just a switch to turn it on and off. And it comes out here back to the power cord, which is basically what I have highlighted here, or not highlighted, but separated on the left here, this circuit right here. Now, if we look closely, there is a monitor switch, which is one of your door switches, which is parallel to the transformer. So in other words, if I wanted to remove this transformer, if power went this way through this door switch while the microwave was running, that would be a direct short. If you look, there's nothing but switches and safeties in series with that door switch. And here, now the purpose of that door switch is to blow the main fuse, which is usually located on your noise filter board here. That is if the primary door switch and the microwave relay on the board is running. If they're running, this door switch here should be open. Now, there are three switches in this microwave, and let me point them out. I have a couple of videos out there on door switches and their purposes, but let's just simplify it here. The secondary switch, which is located right here, it's connected just to the board right there. That switch is low voltage, has nothing to do with anything other than telling the control board the door is open, turn the light on so that they can see their food inside, or that the door is closed, which will allow the microwave to start. If this switch is bad, you can press time cook 2 minutes, and when you press start, nothing happens. That could be if this switch here, the secondary door switch, was failed. Now the primary door switch, when the door is closed, this should be closed as well as the secondary door switch. That just completes a circuit up to the transformer. Now if you look at this, coming from here down to the transformer, if the door's closed, there's 120 here all the time, or at least line 1 coming in. The relay here is on the neutral side of that transformer, and this transformer is waiting for that relay here to close so that the microwaves can happen. So if the transformer had a short, it could blow a breaker. But what if this monitor switch here was closed when the primary door switch was closed? If that's the case, power would go up and over and around the transformer and blow the breaker. So one of the most common things that are blowing the breakers are the door switches on the microwaves. And Frigidaire redesigned their door switches and the bracket that holds them, and they have had a lot of issues with the door switches not staying mounted properly. And it is possible when you close the door and the primary closes and the monitor closes, as soon as you press start, it's been blowing the breaker in a customer's house. This monitor switch here is the first switch you want to look at to see if you're blowing that breaker. Okay? A lot of people said that the monitor switch is stuck open, like it's in the open position. In a microwave, that monitor switch's only purpose is to blow a circuit breaker, and that only happens when the door switch is closed. When that switch is open, and let's just draw it like it's in the open position here, power just goes straight through the transformer. We do not need this monitor switch in order for this microwave to work at all. If that monitor switch, you took those 2 wires off that switch, take the switch out of the microwave and throw it in the garbage, the microwave's going to work. If you see this highlighted circuit here that I have, transformer is going to get power. The monitor switch is only there if the transformer is getting power and it sees that the door is open. When that happens, current's going to go around it and it's going to blow a breaker. So how do we determine whether it's one of these two things at fault, whether it's my capacitor here or my door switch? Well, one of the things that I would have done is I would have went to my high voltage transformer. Give me 1 second here. I would have went to the microwave high voltage transformer. I have to open up a file here. So if we looked here, this is that GE microwave there, the same microwave that we're talking about. Your door switches are located here on the left hand side, and our capacitor and diode are right in the front, as well as our transformer. If you are blowing the breaker and you don't have a meter to test it, you want to say, okay, how do I know if it's the door switch or the magnetron. You could do one of two things. One, you could unplug the monitor switch. Like I said, it doesn't need it. So if you took the wires off the monitor switch here and you ran the microwave and it worked good, then you know that your door switches are your problem, that your monitor switch is closed while this microwave is trying to run, and that's it. You've already identified the problem just by taking the wires right off the monitor door switch and to see if that fixed the problem. The other thing you could do, it's a little more dangerous though, is unplugging the high voltage transformer and just taping them off or something and run the microwave without the high voltage transformer. And if you disconnect the transformer here and here and it doesn't blow a breaker, then you know your problem's in your high voltage side, and most likely it's the capacitor. So the answer to these questions was the two most common parts that would cause this would be a HV capacitor and a monitor door switch. And by disconnecting the transformer, if it still blew the breaker, you know it's your door switch. If you disconnect the monitor switch and you run the microwave and you get heat, then you know it was your monitor switch that was at fault. But I had another question. What problem would occur if we did have this short? And what I have seen is when we get a high voltage short, and let me show this circuit again. When we get this high voltage short through the door switch, through that relay on the board, when you have a short, it creates a very high amperage. A microwave is supposed to run on a 15-20 amp circuit breaker, and you're blowing the breaker in the house, so you're exceeding 20 amps for a fraction of a second till that breaker trips. And one of the problems that I saw was that the relay on the board, the contacts, when they get that high voltage short through there, sometimes they weld together. It's like arc welding. And that could cause that relay either to not close or to stay closed even though the customer isn't choosing cooking. You're going to say, well, how do I know if that's bad? Well, if I disconnect the monitor switch and I plug this microwave in, if that relay was stuck closed, and let me just show you, I said earlier that we have 110 volts coming in to the transformer all the time, right here. So if I take this monitor switch out of the circuit and this relay is stuck closed, this is what closes when you press start for the transformer to get power. So if it's stuck closed, as soon as the customer plugs in the microwave, transformer is going to kick on, and we're going to start producing microwaves even though the customer never pressed start. So if you do have this short in the microwave, you want to see if this relay number 2 here on the board welded shut and stopped the mic, or got bad because of that short. Now, I got lucky. One time I was able to take the back end of my screwdriver and hit the relay on the board. And when I hit the relay on the board, it unstuck the contact, so to speak. But sometimes you have to replace both parts, and you need to check it before you leave that that part didn't fail. Now here are your door switches on your microwave, and so your door sensing switch is on the bottom. That isn't always. Sometimes the door sensing's on the top and the primary's on the bottom. But the monitor switch, this one right here, this monitor switch right here, is the one, if we just take one of these wires off, that by disconnecting that wire, you can run the microwave to see if it's shorted. And that would be one way to do it, and the other way would be to disconnect the wire off the transformer and see if it's still blowing the breaker. So go back over the question, list two most common parts that cause it, would be the capacitor or the monitor door switch. How to check without a meter. Disconnect the monitor door switch and run, or disconnect the transformer and run. You could do that to either one of these units. You can disconnect the monitor door switch, and if you disconnect the monitor door switch and the microwave runs, you know your switches are the problem. Or disconnect the transformer. If you disconnect the transformer, it runs, you know it's a high voltage short. And if you were to say, hey, which one do you think most likely caused this? I would say capacitor first, transformer second, magnetron third, and diode last. But a lot of times if I have a bad diode or capacitor, I usually recommend changing the magnetron, because that means you've put the wrong voltage to our magnetron. If either one of these two parts failed here in the bottom, the rectifier or the capacitor, so it might be a good idea if it's under warranty or contract to replace it anyways. So in number 3, what problem could occur to the board if this had a short circuit? And relay number 2, which is the transformer on the microwave, could either weld contacts closed or make it so they don't close anymore. Sorry, trying to type and talk at the same time. Guess I can't do that. So if you do have a short, relay number 2 that goes to the transformer, and I'll just go ahead and put a dash there. Relay number 2 for a transformer on the microwave could weld the contacts closed. That means even when the microwave's unplugged, this relay over here could be stuck closed. You could ohm it out. If you looked at the board, you'd find a relay was usually a black box on the relay. Let me see if I can get a picture of it. And if that's the case, you could have stuck contacts on that board. Let me just show a picture of it. Let's go here. So if you look here on this transformer, this one has 2 relays here, and it would be one of these two. If you look at this diagram here on the right here, this is showing 2 relays here, and that would be these 2 relays right here. So both of them, when the microwave is off, you could put your ohm meter on these 2 terminals, and it should be open. There should be no reading when the microwave is off. So this is unplug the microwave, check it for continuity, and make sure that these are open. Okay, so that's it. Capacitor, door switch are one of the 2 most common problems to blow a breaker or fuse in a microwave. You either disconnect the monitor or transformer to see which one is causing the short, and the transformer in the microwave could weld the contacts close, and if so, they may not close anymore, or that the microwave would run as soon as the door is closed. That would be an indication whether this relay is bad or not. Alright, well, thank you very much. Hopefully that answered your question. It's a little bit harder to make a video when I don't have input from others on the other end, but hope you understand this. If you got any questions, just post comments in the bottom of the video and I'll respond to them this week. Thank you.